My adoptive father is a villain. And my adoptive mother is a vicious female partner. In order not to let me be bullied, they taught me all their life's tricks. I took the essence and removed the dross. And the road went smoothly to the university. Until the male and female protagonists came to recognize their relatives. They saw me with colorful hair on top and a yellow hair to open the bow left and right. To be a eunuch or to be my boyfriend. The heroine's eyes are black. I'm such a big and fragrant daughter. My parents instilled in me from a young age that there were two people in this world and I had to kill them. So, while other people's kids were being held in their arms watching Peppa Pig, I was learning how to break someone's neck in the basement. There were no dolls in my childhood. Only martial arts. Taekwondo. Muay Thai. Archery. The adoptive father said, "To be merciful to one's enemies is to be cruel to oneself." When I was 3 years old, I was picked up by my adoptive mother from the trunk of a car. That day, her Maserati was rear-ended. The other party is a ruffian hooligan. Obviously he changed lanes in violation of regulations. But as soon as he got out of the car, he pointed at her nose and scolded. And he opened his mouth to blackmail her for 100,000 yuan. She laughed right then, shaking the adoptive father. He unloaded the joints of the man's limbs with his bare hands. And his movements were clean and neat, as if he was dismantling a disobedient toy. The man collapsed on the ground like mud and fainted in pain. The adoptive father shook the blood off his hand and turned to leave, but heard a faint cry from the trunk. Inside, there was a chubby little girl huddled up. "That's me." My adoptive father stared at me for 2 seconds, his brow furrowed enough to kill a fly. He didn't want to care about me, but my adoptive mother picked me up. She said, "The group of women in the circle of friends show their daughters every day. If I also have a daughter, she will definitely be more beautiful than them." So, she carried me back. As it turned out, she was right. Her celebrity friends lit up when they saw me. Until one day, a certain short-sighted rich lady brought her son to be a guest. The bear kid took advantage of the adult's inattention and suddenly came over and put it in my face. Bah! Kissed it. The adoptive mother's smile froze instantly. That night, she taught me something with her own hands. The next time someone dares to touch you, poke him in the eye with a fork. Adoptive father supplements. Don't let your hands and feet go. The next day, the family never showed up again, and the adoptive mother's circle of friends has been blocked from all since. Baby tanning madness. When I was a child, it was very difficult for me to raise. Picky eater. Crying. Sick at every turn. Like a squeamish bag. My adoptive mother was so angry that she scolded me every day. "If you don't eat, you'll starve to death. Cry what to cry about. Cry again and throw you out." Then he turned around and called the chef frantically. "Rock sugar gourd. That's what it is. Can a child die if he eats it? Candy floss. Cut. Immature. Forget it. Give me a taste of the whole one. Chocolate. No way. Dogs can't eat chocolate." What? People can. That. Buy a box and try it first. The adoptive father is even more outrageous. He couldn't see me crying, and as soon as I cried, he pulled out a knife with a cold face. "If you cry again, you'll be chopped up." As a result, before I could wipe away my tears, he was so frightened that he threw the knife out the window. Later, even the fruit knife was confiscated at home, and the corner of the table was covered with a bumper strip, for fear that I would bump into it. One day, he stumbled upon the idea that lifting high would keep me from crying. So, as soon as he came home every night, the first thing he did was wash his hands, change his clothes, and then put me around his neck and run around the house. The 1'9" cold noodle president, with a 3-year-old little bean around his neck, and a horse bark in his mouth. Drive. Drive. Run fast. The adoptive mother sat on the sofa and rolled her eyes. Neuropathy. But it didn't take long for her to join in, too. When I was 5 years old, I had a high fever of 40 degrees. The whole person was in a daze, unable to cry, and could only shrink into the arms of his adoptive mother and sobbed quietly. The doctor came to give the antipyretic injection, and as soon as the needle came out, the adoptive mother exploded. "So thick needle. Are you going to beat her to death? There will be no scars. My daughter is going to wear a bikini in the future." The adoptive father stood beside him, his face gloomy and frightening. He grabbed the doctor by the collar. and his voice was as cold as ice. If you can't save her, you won't live. The doctor's hands were shaking and almost crooked. That night, my fever subsided a bit, and I opened my eyes in a daze, and saw my adoptive father sitting on the edge of the bed, his eyes red. He took my little hand and whispered, "If you're dead, your mother and I don't want to live anymore." I later found out that he almost demolished the hospital that day. On my 6th birthday, I experienced another kidnapping. The kidnappers asked them for 10 million. The adoptive father listened to the phone in silence, turned around and went to the bank to withdraw $10 million. The kidnappers were very trustworthy and released me when they received the money. It was only during the handover that the man in the skull mask suddenly raised his hand and gave me a slap. The left side of my face ached so badly that tears welled up in my eyes. In the next second, the adoptive father's hand had already grabbed the kidnapper's throat. "Which hand hits?" he asked, his voice as soft as discussing the weather. Before the kidnappers could react, the adoptive father had already drawn his dagger and shaved off the flesh along his palm prints like cutting a sashimi. The adoptive mother stood next to her and put on lipstick, glanced at the screaming kidnapper, and frowned in disgust. "It's too noisy." She snapped her fingers, and 4 strong men in suits immediately stepped out of the shadows. A week later, the kidnapper, dressed in a pink tutu, was thrown into one of India's most chaotic slums. My bedtime story has changed since then. Peppa Pig was replaced by Human Anatomy. Sailor Moon became the Toxicology Chemistry Handbook. The adoptive father sat on the edge of the bed and asked in a coaxing tone, "NN, do you know where it hurts the most but it won't leave a scar?" He took my finger and tapped it lightly under his ribs. "Here, the liver area. With an inch of strength, the other party will go into shock. But there is only a small red on the surface." Adoptive mothers are more direct. She gave me a children's makeup case, which I opened all over with colorful powder. Red is cyanide, blue is paralyzing, and white is amnesia when mixed with a drink. She pinched my face and smiled sweetly. Girls need to know how to protect themselves. When I was in elementary school, they suddenly remembered that it had been a long time since they had gone to the enemy to make a stumbling block. So he thought of a stupid trick and sent someone to water the enemy's fortune tree. They also stole their cats and dogs. Before I entered the door, they were always crushed by the enemy on the ground. The winning rate is 0, but the more frustrated it is, the more courageous it becomes. When I came, they won every battle. My adoptive mother said, "I am our family's little lucky star." However, I heard that their enemies were a husband and wife. It's just that I went out for a honeymoon, and the baby was stolen. So I'm not in the mood to deal with my adoptive parents. 3. I think it is so difficult to deal with an enemy who can be stolen by a thief. However, the adoptive father said that Huyen, one of the enemies, was the adoptive mother's first love and ex-fiancé. Before getting married, Huyen fell in love with Songli, who sold alcohol in a bar. The adoptive mother hated because of love, and instead pushed her fiancé to someone else's side. I asked my adoptive father, "Then why do you hate them?" He sighed. "When Songli was selling wine, he poured it on me. Huasili thought I was going to rob that idiot. I just want me to break the Tian Liang King." After I listened, I sharpened my knife silently. That's really a lot. There was a little fat guy sitting behind me at school who liked to pull my braids. My adoptive mother tried so hard to tie my braids every morning, and he pulled them messily and ugly. The first time I hit someone in my life was because of a fat man. He sits behind me and always tugs at my braids. The adoptive mother's carefully braided hair, adorned with pearl hair ties, spent half an hour every morning being pulled by his greasy fingers, and instantly turned into a mess of straw. I warned him 3 times. The 4th time, I turned around and picked up the stainless steel thermos cup. Bang! The little fat man's front teeth flew out half a meter away and landed on the edge of the podium. He covered his mouth and cried, blood seeping from between his fingers, and I was clutching a large tuft of his hair in my hand. When the teacher called the parents, their voices were shaking. Chi Nianan knocked out his classmate's front teeth and returned. He also grabbed his hair and slammed it on the table. Half an hour later, the adoptive father's private helicopter landed directly on the school grounds. He jumped off the plane in a suit and leather shoes, and the assistant behind him chased after him with a multi-billion contract and shouted, "Mr. Cheen, sign it." The adoptive father did not look back. "My daughter has killed someone. I'm going to clean up the aftermath." The adoptive mother was even more exaggerated, and when she rushed into the office, she still had a mask on her face. "Who bullied my daughter?" The teacher cowered in the corner in fright. "Yes, it's your daughter who bullies others." Adoptive dad bent over to examine my finger joints. "Hands don't hurt." My adoptive mother opened my palm and looked at. "The quality of this hair is so bad. It's all red and our baby." The little fat man's parents just wanted to have a seizure. But the adoptive father had already thrown a black card on the table. "Dentist. Hair transplant. Mental damage fee. Brush yourself." He paused, and suddenly narrowed his eyes. "But if you let me hear again that your son touched one of my daughter's hair, next time, it's not just the teeth that will be lost." The next day, there was a vacuum around my desk. The little fat man changed schools, and it is said that his father applied for an overseas transfer the night he received the black card. My adoptive mother hummed a song while rebraiding my hair. "In the future, whoever messes up his mother's braided hair will tear off his bones and use them as hairpins." Okay. I chewed on the strawberry milk straw and nodded heavily. After I went to high school, I suddenly felt like I had been opened up to the second line of Rondu. On the day the monthly exam report card was issued, the head teacher's voice trembled with excitement. "Cheen Yenin, the first in the grade. Full marks in math. Full marks for English. Only 2 points were deducted for the Chinese composition." The adoptive father and adoptive mother stared at the report card, their brows furrowed enough to kill flies. Foster father: "This score, is it a typo?" Foster mother: "Could it be cheating? Do you want to find someone to check?" 4. In the evening, an old man in a Taoist robe came to the house and jumped beside my bed for an hour with a peachwood sword. I bit a popsicle and passed by the study and heard a heated argument coming from inside. Foster father: "I've never passed a grade." Foster mother: "I didn't even take the exam. I spent money all the way to buy it." Foster father: "The teacher said she could get a big A." Foster mother: "A large. What a pheasant school that's that." The adoptive father flipped through the admissions brochure and was heartbroken. "It's not just pheasants. Look at this school motto. Self-improvement. Virtue. This is clearly to teach people to be nerds. To stop me. Go astray." My adoptive parents began to frantically test my hobbies. The adoptive mother asked as if unintentionally holding a fruit bowl. "NN. Did you watch the recent talent show, Creation 999? Mom thinks you're much prettier than those trainees." Later, there was an inexplicable copy of Black and Red Strategy Manual in the entertainment industry on my desk. And on the title page, my adoptive father annotated it with a red pen. "Focus on Chapter 3, how to get the paparazzi to hype it up for you for free." While eating breakfast on the weekend, my adoptive father suddenly pushed a check. "Dad invested in a movie, and the heroine has not yet been decided." I silently pulled out the gold medal I had just received in the physics competition. The fork in the adoptive mother's hand, when dropped to the ground. Things culminated on the day the escort notice arrived home. The adoptive father's hand holding the gilded envelope was shaking. A large. "I really want to train my daughter to be a scientist." At the beginning of the summer vacation, my adoptive parents chartered an entire 5-star hotel for me to hold a college banquet. The adoptive mother wore a haute couture gown and smiled at the guests with champagne. "Oh, raise it casually. Who knows that this child will fight for himself?" I turned around and hid in the dressing room and kissed my admission letter wildly. My lipstick was covered in paper. The adoptive father is even more exaggerated. He deliberately ordered an equal scale-down fondant cake for the Colonel A. But his hands trembled so hard when he cut the cake that the tip of the knife almost pierced the plaque. Towards the end of the banquet, my adoptive father suddenly dragged me into the VIP lounge. His face was so gloomy that he could drip. I just received the news that the little cub adopted by Huyen. I was also admitted to the A University. Adoptive mother's nails. Click. Cut off a piece of ground. That dog cub's name is Huyu Bai. Right. I heard what kind of competition escort students are. I turned the butterfly knife on my wrist. It was given to me by my adoptive father. Gift for the start of school. So, the adoptive father took a deep breath. And in. listen to his father's words, and take a detour when he meets him. The adoptive mother rarely agreed. That's right. That family is unlucky. I tilted my head and smiled at them. All right. It's weird. It is only natural that the father and the son repay the debt. I want Hua Yubai to kneel at my feet and admit that his father is a dog. On the first day of school. It was supposed to be the day my adoptive parents sent me to school. They even arranged helicopters. My adoptive mother even prepared 20 sets of haute couture college-style suits for me overnight. As a result, before dawn, my adoptive father's mobile phone exploded. Mr. Chin, Hua Yan intercepted our arms orders in Southeast Asia. The adoptive father dropped Wangzi milk on the spot. Damn it. That stupid dog. The adoptive mother's side is not peaceful either. She was picking out shoes for me to wear for school in the mall. And Song Li happened to pass by with a group of celebrities. And said lightly, I want this pair. Wrap it up. 5. Turning his head to his adoptive mother and smiling. I'm sorry. If you like it, I'll give it to you. My adoptive mother was so angry that her nails dug into her palms and sent me a voice. I need her to send. That stupid woman doesn't have snacks either. The celebrities around me are about to enter the house. And they are still hello to others. Hello to me. Hello to everyone. Baby. Check in yourself. Mommy is going to tear that slut's mouth apart. I sighed and replied. Then remember not to break your nails. Otherwise, I will have to go home again. When I checked in, I politely declined the senior's offer to help carry my luggage, and walked to the dormitory with my suitcase. As a result, as soon as he turned into the boulevard, he bumped into a thin and tall boy. White shirt, black trousers, and a cold side face. It looks beautiful and picturesque. I squinted. Hua Yubai. He seemed to realize something, and looked up. His eyes moved slightly. Then he regained his composure, nodded at me, and turned to leave. On the first day Hua Yubai entered the school, he directly slaughtered the confession wall, under the entry of the newborn male god. The photos of him were secretly swiped all over the screen. The silhouette of the library window looking down at the book. The cuffs of the white shirt are rolled up, revealing a cold white wrist. The back of the basketball court jumping up when he took 3 steps to the basket. The hem of his clothes was raised, and the waistline was as sharp as a knife. The comment area was full of ghosts crying wolf. 3 minutes. I want all the information about this man. Seniors, let's go. I will pay my respects to this freshman first. I sneered and swiped my phone and clicked on the basketball game notification that the student union had just sent. The next day, the school team training match. The sidelines were full of girls. Hua Yubai, as a freshman starter, scored 2 3-pointers as soon as he got on the court, and his screams almost overturned the roof of the gymnasium. I swayed slowly, carrying a bottle of ice water in my hand. In full view of everyone, he walked straight up to him. Drink water. I laughed harmlessly. In fact, the bottle of water was twice as laxative. Hua Yubai lifted the hem of his jersey to wipe his sweat, and his abdominal muscles flashed. He looked down at me. His eyes fell on the bottle of water, and he suddenly smiled. Thank you. Then, he took the water and unscrewed the cap. With a twist of the wrist, it poured on his head. Ice water rolled down his jawline, slid across his Adam's apple, and soaked the placket. There was a gasp from the sidelines. The onlookers exploded instantly. Scheming. Actually sent water to the male god. Why wouldn't I dare? Dead legs. You're moving. It's very beautiful. Fighting and grabbing. Bad luck. The appearance of the vixen. This kind of restless at first glance. I turned to face them. And suddenly a sweet smile bloomed. Yes. I'm restless. Are you queuing up to deliver water? Are you here to give love? The crowd was silent. I snatched a functional drink from a girl's hand and dumped it in the trash. They are all 1,000-year-old foxes, pretending to be innocent little white rabbits. After speaking, he winked at Hua Yubai, and in his suddenly constricted pupils, he poured the second bottle of laxative, which he had prepared a long time ago, on his limited edition sneakers. Hua Yubai was stunned for a moment. Looking down at his soaked sneakers, I tilted my head and smiled, in an innocent tone. Sorry for the slippery hand. After saying that, turn around and leave. 6. Behind him, there was an angry discussion of the girls. She did it on purpose. It's so vicious. I want to make the male god remember her in this way. Obscene. I heard that she has a background in her family. No wonder she is so arrogant. I waved my hand without looking back. And smiled brightly. Yes. I just want him to remember me. Remember. Don't mess with me. In the following days, Hua Yubai's life became extraordinary. Wonderful. In the cafeteria, as soon as he sat down, the next table would be, accidentally, knocked over a bowl of tomato egg soup. And the soup was poured precisely on his white shirt. Red and yellow. It's a bit of a thin self-study in the library. There is always someone. Hands tremble. Throwing ink. It fell impartially in front of his forehead. And slid down the bridge of his tall nose. Like a prisoner who was sentenced to death in a costume drama. School sports rehearsal. Raw eggs that flew out of nowhere. Syllable. The ground slammed into the back of his head. The egg liquid seeping into his hair slimy. Shining in the sunlight. The whole school is going viral. That transfer student hired someone to fix Hua Yubai. I heard that her dad is the underworld. Senior Hua is miserable. But he is really handsome. Hua Yubai's reaction was unexpected. He posted a statement on the confession wall. To a student surnamed Chin. Please stop all attempts to get my attention. I already have a fiancé and it is inconvenient to respond to any transgressions. One stone stirs up 1,000 waves. The whole school exploded. And all my pranks were misinterpreted overnight into love and hate. The girls looked at me with pity in their eyes. No wonder she was so crazy. It turned out that she couldn't ask for it. It's miserable. But she deserves it. Who made her so vicious? I stared at my phone screen and sneered. Okay. Hua Yubai. Play the war of public opinion. Right. After school. I blocked him directly on the path behind the laboratory building. When Hua Yubai saw me, the corners of his lips were slightly hooked. And his tone was playful. Is classmate Chin here to confess? Pity. I have a fiancé. I clenched my fists and creaked, squeezing out a stiff laugh. Who said I like you anymore? He raised an eyebrow. Isn't it? I couldn't hold back and swung my fist over. Hua Yubai reacted very quickly, grabbed my wrist, and dragged me. I was caught off guard, and the whole person staggered forward 2 steps, almost crashing into his arms. He lowered his head, stared at me with bright dark eyes, and said in an innocent tone, Is Chin not standing firm? Don't you see that I want to give you a pack of old punches? Lin Chuan, who was watching the excitement next to him, suddenly came over and said with a smile, If classmate Chin doesn't look down on you then consider me. I am single-minded and obedient. You tell me to go east. I will never go west. Hua Yubai glanced at him coldly. You sleep snoring, grinding your teeth, farting, picking your toes. Lin Chuan's face turned from red to green and purple. You heard it wrong. I won't. I took the opportunity to withdraw my hand, raised my foot and kicked Hua Yubai's calf hard. He snorted and staggered back half a step. I smiled and tilted my head. Didn't Hua stand firm? And I also have a boyfriend. And he can pinch you rookie to death with one finger. Hua Yubai's face turned cold. I whistled triumphantly and slowly gestured downward. In the evening, my adoptive mother opened the phone and complained to me, saying that Song Li seemed to have recently found out about the lack of virtue that abducted and sold her daughter. So the mood was a little better, which led to the adoptive father's company being rectified again. 7. She said that she would take me to incense and go to bad luck on the weekend. My adoptive mother took me to the most spiritual temple on the outskirts of the city, while stuffing gold bars into the merit box. She gritted her teeth and cursed. Song Li, that idiot, actually brought her cousin to the company to talk about cooperation. The woman stared at your dad as soon as she entered, and her eyes were almost sticking to his tie. I put 3 sticks of incense into the incense burner and asked casually, And then what? The adoptive mother sneered. Then your dad tricked her into the toilet and locked the door. The idiot howled inside for half an hour. And finally the cleaning lady pried open the door with a mop. I laughed out loud and knelt in front of the Buddha reverently, clasping my hands together. Buddha blesses. My parents are in good health and live a long life. As for Hua Yubai, I narrowed my eyes and lowered my voice to add viciously. Let him walk with a broken crotch. Go to the toilet and drop the toilet. And leak electricity in the bath. As soon as the words fell, A chuckle came from behind him. I jerked my head back. Hui Yubai stood 3 steps away, followed by a jeweled lady. He was wearing a black turtleneck sweater today, with a cold white complexion, and his eyebrows and eyes were like ink. And he was looking at me with a smile. Need me to be so unlucky? He asked slowly. My face doesn't change. If it's not enough, you can add one. Choking on eating. Choking on water. The whole family goes bankrupt. The lady gasped. And my adoptive mother immediately dragged me up. Little kids talk nonsense. Hui Yubai suddenly bent down and leaned close to my ear. Coincidentally, I asked for a visa for you. He held a yellow signature between his fingertips and flicked it in front of my eyes. Bad. I snatched the signing paper and tore it up, and smiled sweetly at him. Feudal superstition is unacceptable. Why don't I let you experience what it means to be fierce? The lady suddenly pushed away my adoptive mother and grabbed my wrist with a frighteningly eager look in her eyes. She reached out to grab me by the collar, but my adoptive mother slapped it open. Songli, what are you crazy about? Songli turned a deaf ear and stared at my face. Resemble. It's too similar. She trembled and touched my face, and was dragged back by my adoptive mother. Stay away from my daughter. Asterisk. Her voice was as cold as ice. Hui Yan's crazy criticism sees you as more important than your eyeballs. Don't look back. There is a piece of meat on our head. If my daughter is missing a piece of meat, my old Chin is not a vegetarian. My adoptive mother pulled me and was about to leave. Songli grabbed me inexplicably. Mr. Chin, when is your birthday? Foster mother. The surname is Song. You're endless. Don't think that I worship the Buddha to be a vegetarian. Believe it or not, I'll knock you away with one punch. Songli held his face in fright, and muttered, I just thought. Your daughter looks a bit like my mom. Anen is like your mother. Then I'm not too grandma for you. Come, listen to the sound of grandma. Songli suddenly grabbed my shoulder. Child, do you have a red mole on your chest? I was breathless. I do. My adoptive mother's face stiffened, and she thought about it. And she looked at me nervously. I raised my chin. No. The light in Song Li's eyes went out instantly. 8. Hui Yubai patted her shoulder comfortingly and looked at me meaningfully. On the way back, my adoptive mother's hand was shaking as she held my hand. She suddenly choked up and asked me, Anne, you said is it possible? You are really Song Li's stupid daughter. The red mole on your chest. Before I could answer, she herself broke down first, crying like a boiling kettle. Woo woo woo, I am such a beautiful daughter. At first glance, her parents are very good-looking. Why can Songli give birth to such a good-looking one? She paused, drew a tissue and blew her nose. Although she does look okay. I quickly patted her on the back. Mom, I'll always be your daughter. My adoptive mother looked at me with red eyes. But what if it were? She suddenly hugged me tightly. Even if you are her daughter, your mother will not stop you from recognizing your relatives. Mom can do it for you. Go and make peace with Songli. I looked at my adoptive mother's crying mascara and thought, it's over. I'm really stimulated this time. After returning home, the adoptive father listened with a calm face and directly called someone to check the photo of Song Li's mother. Half an hour later, an old photo appeared on the computer screen. When she was young, Song's mother hugged Song Li as a baby, and a red mole was faintly visible under the collarbone on her chest. Foster mother. Oh. As soon as he cried out, he picked up the husky who was sleeping on the sofa and howled. No wonder Hafa made love as soon as he saw Anan. It turned out to be acquaintance. This red mole is still an ancestral heirloom. She pointed to another orange cat rolling on the carpet. And since I was a child, I loved to squeeze and sleep peacefully. She wiped her tears and concluded, both of these are smarter than Songli. The adoptive father hurriedly comforted the adoptive mother, turned to me and asked, Anan, what do you think? I munched on the apple slowly. It's easy. Do a paternity test. If it's true, I winked at my adoptive mother. I'll let Songli call you grandma. The adoptive mother's crying stopped abruptly. They discussed it all night and decided to pick a time to take me to Hui's house to recognize my relatives. Hui Yubai and I inquired about the time when Hui Yan's daughter was lost. What a coincidence it found. It's about the same as when my adoptive mother picked me up. Recognizing relatives or not recognizing relatives is secondary. But all of a sudden I became the daughter of an enemy. And I always felt that I had betrayed my adoptive father and adoptive mother. My rebellious period came suddenly. The more Huayubai said that I was like, the more I thought I wouldn't like. Not only did he cut his long hair, but he also dyed his hair colorful. From a distance, it looks like a shuttlecock waving in the wind. Songli and Huayen got out of the car and found me. I was pressing a yellow hair to open the bow left and right. To be a eunuch or to be my boyfriend? Huang Mao cried and shouted. Boyfriend. Boyfriend. Song Li's eyes darkened. I'm such a big and fragrant daughter. I scratched my hair. Not caring. Auntie, did you inform my mother about robbing me of my daughter's business? Apparently she did it privately. She asked me if I could do a paternity test together. Yesterday you robbed my dad of $1 billion order. Huayan. Still. My mom's new jewelry was taken away. Along with a new bag. Songli. Give it all to her. Then I'll think about it. Songli and the others were very fast. And in less than an hour, they delivered all those things to their homes. 9. My adoptive mother called and asked me to go back quickly, saying that Songli had come to the gym to kick out. Let me go back and help the handle. I told her about it. She was silent for a moment, and instantly burst into tears. Don't force yourself. Your father and I have money, and we don't lack that. But can it be wronged again? That's fine. 2. Early the next morning, my adoptive parents solemnly put on a plain white dress for me and said that they would take me to Hua's house to visit the door. My adoptive mother muttered as she brushed my hair. When I see Songli later, if she dares to cry, I will tear off her false eyelashes. The adoptive father added solemnly beside him. If Huayen dares to deny you, I will hack his company's firewall. Are you going to visit the door or smash the field? As a result, as soon as I arrived at the door of the Hua family's villa, I heard a heart-rending cry from inside. We pushed the door and went in, and saw a girl in a floral dress hugging Songli tightly. Mother, I'm Hua Shui, your kidnapped biological daughter. There was silence. My adoptive father and adoptive mother glanced at each other, immediately switched to melon eating mode, and pulled me to the front row. The girl looked up. Grass. Isn't this my roommate Zhou Yu? She usually covers half of her face with bangs in the dormitory and hardly talks to anyone. But now she seems to be a different person. And she pulls out a DNA report with rain. I managed to find you. Huayen took the report with trembling hands. It's really light snow. It's really my daughter. The adoptive mother suddenly applauded. Congratulations. The adoptive father shook hands with him. Mr. Hua is so blessed. The two of them led me left and right, smiling like they were coming to a wedding. Now your family is reunited. Songli looked at my face and then at Zhou Yu in his arms. Is it possible? The report is wrong. Hua Shui's body stiffened, and she suddenly pointed at me and screamed. Mother, it was she who bullied me at school. She deliberately sprinkled water on my bed. Obviously, she knocked over the water glass by herself, and she didn't dare to say it. Steal my underwear too. That's underwear. Not to mention that I thought it was 2 ropes. The most excessive is, she suddenly ripped open her collar, revealing a shallow scratch on her collarbone. She threatened me with a knife. The audience was in an uproar. I stared at the scar. That's obviously because she turned over the horizontal bar in PE class last week. Songli suddenly stopped in front of me and whispered. Nianan didn't look like someone who would do such a thing. I was stunned. The adoptive mother also widened her eyes and muttered in a low voice. She wasn't blind today. She walked over, raised her hand and gave Zhou Yu a slap. What are you to slander my daughter? He said to Songli again. I'll educate your daughter for you. No problem. Songli touched his face and shrunk his neck in fear. Not. Zhou Yu covered his face and looked at her in disbelief. Mother. Her face turned pale, and she suddenly pounced on Huayubai, crying. Yubai, Qi Nianan has been bullying you. Have you forgotten? She's jealous that I'm your fiancé. So that's why she deliberately targeted you. What does it mean? Zhou Yu is Huayubai's fiancé. In these years, it was also popular to raise children and husbands. 10. Huayubai slowly pulled her hand away and said lightly. Mr. Qin didn't bully me. She's just chasing me. The adoptive mother immediately came over and asked excitedly. Anan was chasing him. Do you want to tie it back directly? The adoptive father has already figured out his mobile phone. Or kill the fiancé first. I sneered. No. I have a boyfriend. As soon as I said that I had a boyfriend, the expressions of my adoptive parents froze instantly. The adoptive mother covered her chest and staggered back 2 steps. Anne. I have a boyfriend. The mobile phone in the adoptive father's hand. Smack. Falling to the ground. The screen cracks into a spider's web. Who? When? Can he beat me? Yesterday. Just hand it in. But in fact, I don't know who the Huang Mao's surname is. I only know that he looks like a golden retriever. Pity. I went abroad overnight last night. Hua Yubai's eyes narrowed slightly, staring at me dangerously. How? Unbelief. Zhou Yu immediately seized the opportunity and sneered. She has a boyfriend and comes to tease you. What a shame. Hua Yubai suddenly chuckled, took out a photo from the inner pocket of his suit, and threw it on the coffee table at will. In the photo, Huang Mao is holding my platinum bag with an exploding head, and the background is the international flight information on the large screen of the airport. This boyfriend went to northern Myanmar on a 7 o'clock plane this morning. He tapped his fingertips on the photo. Do you need me to have someone come back to confront him face to face? Zhou Yu's face was as white as paper in an instant, and his lips trembled and he couldn't speak. Song Li frowned and picked up the report, and suddenly sneered, Wu Shui. My daughter's nickname is Tang Tang, and you don't even know where her birthmark is. So you're embarrassed to pretend to be. Zhou Yu knelt down, tugging on Song Li's trouser leg and crying, Auntie, I was wrong. I'm just too envious of your family's wealth. Hua Yantai blushed and let people drag her away. And when he turned around, he saw my adoptive parents guarding me like cubs, and suddenly sighed, Nianen. What happened back then? Stop. The adoptive father took out his black card and shook it. First settle the billion arms money owed to me, and then talk about family affection. The adoptive mother flipped through the jewelry catalog given by Song Ligong without raising her head. There are also my 20 Hermes. Don't even think about recognizing your daughter if you don't have one. I watched the scene of chickens flying and dogs jumping, and suddenly felt ridiculous and funny. Hua Yubai didn't know when he walked up to me and whispered, actually, the paternity test results came out 3 days ago. You and Song Li are not related by blood. I raised my eyebrows. Then you are deliberately provoking me. A sly look flashed in his eyes. Otherwise, how can you take the initiative to talk to me? When I got home that night, my adoptive parents barricaded me in my bedroom, their eyes complicated as if they were looking at rare treasures. The adoptive father coughed, since it is not the Hua family's species. Then Hua Yubai's kid. The adoptive mother suddenly slapped the table. No. His dad robbed my first love back then. The adoptive father looked at her faintly. What about me? The adoptive mother was right. I picked it up from the trash can, just as the two were about to quarrel. Hua Yubai's message suddenly popped up on my mobile phone. I checked, and the orphanage records before you were 3 years old were deliberately destroyed. Anne, I like you. I stared at the screen and chuckled to hear the adoptive parents arguing downstairs. The adoptive mother's voice suddenly rose. Anyway, you are not allowed to fall in love with the people of the Hua family. Unless he kneels down and kowtows to me 3 times, and then vacates Hua Yan's company as a dowry. 3 days later, Hua Yubai really knelt at the gate of the Liu family with 1 billion cash and the equity transfer letter of the Hua group. The adoptive mother was lying on the balcony in her pajamas, and the melon seeds in her hand fell on his head. There is sincerity. But my daughter said that you are too good to be worthy of her. Hua Yubai looked up at me, with a light in his eyes. Then I'll kneel once a day until you think I'm qualified. The adoptive father touched his chin beside him. This kid has more backbone than his father. Or he. No. The adoptive mother suddenly took out a butterfly knife and tossed it. At least you have to kneel for 100 days. And you will be given 20 tons of gold. I rolled my eyes downstairs, and deliberately stepped on the tip of Hua Yubai's shoes when I passed by. Get up. Rookie. He looked up at me, and the corners of his lips hooked. Don't be a eunuch. And don't be a boyfriend. I leaned over and leaned into his ear. How about being my husband? 3 months later, under the coercion of my adoptive parents, I finally agreed to date Hua Yubai. On the day of the wedding, Song Li cried and wanted to wear an heirloom necklace for me, but was slapped open by his adoptive mother. My daughter's jewelry is bought by the ton. And it is not uncommon for you to break stones. The adoptive father pulled Hui Yan to drink in the corner, and drunkenly patted him on the shoulder. You robbed my wife back then. Hui Yan's hand shook. I didn't. Now I'll rob your son. The adoptive father laughed. Feng Shui takes turns. On the night of the candle in the cave room, Hui Yubai hugged me and chuckled. I heard that your dream when you were a child was to kill my parents. I pinched his waist. Now it's changed to kill you. He lowered his head and kissed me and whispered. It's okay. Anyway, my life has been yours since the day I met you. Later, I found a yellow document in my adoptive father's safe. It was my medical record before I was 3 years old. And it read, Patient, Shen Yanan. Both parents died. Adopted by godfather Qin Yi and godmother Lin Wei. It turned out that I had always been their child. And from the very beginning, I was loved unreservedly. And Hui Yubai, a young man who I once regarded as an enemy, eventually became the warmest light in my life. As the adoptive mother said, love and intrigue. Like careful calculation. But true love is calculated sugar. Sweet to the tip of the heart.